timine yo la tu ilatu ile so ya pula ye to to win for ipe about to say fa talo fa ni va ngole uli fa talo fa tu lo fiango tu to va ni va ngole uli
talo fa lava fa tailo for imole fa fuengo tato Samoa Hope Talks ile ne wuli fa talo fa tu pa ie mo malu le tunu tu tuile manua ya fa pe foi ne yo tato moto au nuu ma Swans Island o tangata nuu tu tuile manua vatu whaftai ma whamaloi ne yaso fo lewa noe tata noai ma se tasi foi o tato halo o le atunu tamai tai a Nellie o sau mai le o su mai le American Samoa Community College ia o vai teimi foi nei o ratalate whauunga o Tamiti High School whapea foi le Community College ia o mo foi nei no mantungo fie suma ye Nellie fai mai foi ni fsili po ni a foi ni fautuanga mai foi I Tamiti aonga ia mai se tatu tupulanga fai ia mawel neve no matungo fie talo falava talo faneli
Tao fa pula ia fa talo fa atu pa ia mal mamalu el tato atunu lo fa penano fa fonga mai nei tu la le aso ia o lo ingo Nellie Tuigamala ia fa tai pula mo nei ava no matango fie e ave ai fo I lo nei tangata vai e fai masui fo I le mamalu o alo ma fa na o le atunu ia le fo ia wa te liu mai ne aso matango fie ia e tato fasoa ia ma tala no fo I awa fo ia ni o ni mea fo ia o saunia ma ta pena fo e lau sunga pula ia mai se fo sunga pula le mfaion taso o wai ne aso ia o ni mea ati na e na ile tato malo ia ma fa amatango fie na fo ia ile tato motu nei o American Samoa.
Hello. Thank you very much, Nellie. So before we proceed, I would like to take this opportunity on behalf of my partner, Pulu, and myself. We want to congratulate all the high school seniors who will be graduating the next few days or weeks. We want to congratulate them for the 4 years they've been hard at work. And so we also like to congratulate the community college students who will also be graduating this year. So, talo falava Nellie, vaftai fo mo never know. Yeah, so no year to my type or whatever questions you may have. So I'll be able to respond to.
Thank you so much, Pula. We will now go into some of the questions that I had some time to think about it, just to jot down some of the things I wanted to inquire about. I'm a very strong advocate for the youth, and for many years, candidates always speak of power to the youth and how they want to empower the youth to stand up, to raise their voice, and make sound decisions and choices that will dictate our lives. And today, my first question for you is, what problems and challenges do you see in our government, and what do you propose to do about them?
Okay, Nellie, that's a loaded question. What problems and challenges did I see in our government, and some of the things that I will do about it? Well, first of all, I do have concerns regarding some of the things that our government do, and one of which is basically accountability and transparency. I think many of our citizens like to know where and how much funds that come in every year to our government. They like to know what is it used for, because there's so many priorities. I believe there are so many concerns in our community, from education, from health, our economy, and a lot of those things. So to me, one of the first concern I have is that our government is accountable to not only for the funds that are provided so that we can, whatever the administration is, they can share these resources
Yes.
to basically to balance things out, not too much in one area and another area. Well, of course, for me, our HOPE, HOPE, stands for honest governance, stands for outstanding education, and also our health. And then the E stands for our, thriving economy or working on our. There's a difference between economic development and
Yes.
also economic growth. So those are the four, but there are other challenges that we have, like drugs, other things that the youth is concerned about. So that would be my answer for that question.
Thank you so much. Now that we're talking about transparency and accountability, my second question to you today is, how can you ensure accountability and transparency when it comes to handling funds within the government? In recent news, we have heard about the 36 million that was used without the authorization of the fono. And in recent years as well, the misuse of COVID funds and so forth. So I wanted to ask you, how are you able to ensure that there's accountability and transparency in handling these money? Because they're a big amount of money that we're talking about, 36 million. Wow, that's a lot. And how can you keep us in the loop, especially the youth and our community they do not partake in these fono and discussions when it comes to budgeting and using these funds? How are we able to, how can you keep us in the loop to understand and know what's going on within the usage of these funds?
Well, thank you, Nellie, for that question. Well, as we began, we talked about the youth. We had a rally, or not a rally, but a meeting, a community meeting in Leone. And one of the young men, one of his first questions to me was basically, well, Mr. Pula, the youth has been promised a lot of things by governors or this administration. Now it's coming to the fourth year for election time, but we really haven't had any youth things that he saw was beneficial to them. For myself, when I was graduating from high school, I remember people giving talks saying, you are the future,
Yes.
of American Samoa. So now, after 40 plus years outside, the future has come back. So I'm here. So obviously, one of the things that the experience that I've had outside in being able to manage millions of dollars when I used to work for the Department of Interior. Also, I worked for Senator Daniel K. Inouye from Hawaii over at the Congress, and I was able to learn quite a lot how to handle millions and millions of dollars. So I would say in the future, should the people of American Samoa vote for Pula and Pulu, we will not have any issue of using any funds without the authorization of the fono, like asking for a supplemental.
Yes.
Unless there's something, at the time that is needed. Transparency in terms of, it also based on leadership. How am I going to be able to provide? You look at someone like Pulu, my partner.
Yes.
Everybody knows Pulu is a straight shooter. Pulu is somebody that really worked hard in a fono when he was there. He was in the military as well. He's Matai in Pango Pango. And he is very accountable. So I don't think I would need an advice because I know Pulu will straighten me out. Okay.
Thank you. Wow. Okay, my next question is, concerning the youth, a lot of students fresh out of college find it hard to find jobs suitable to their degrees, their careers, and so forth. It's why military is one of our main source of employments. Yet we need certified people to work for us here in our community and for our government. How would you be able to assist American Samoa's youth opportunity-wise in work training?
I think that's a key. The last part of your question is work training.
Yes.
We have a lot of people working for our government right now We have some who are working for private companies, and mostly with the star-kissed. And we know that Van Camp has left. So in my administration, we're going to work really hard to bring other companies from outside that would be able to hire our kids when they return home to live with parents. So the idea is to expand our private sector. As I mentioned in the beginning of my kickoff, having the private sector increase more is a good thing to do. And this is a good opportunity for me also to raise a question that has been going around, recently. People are being told or also being threatened that once I come in, I'm going to cut off jobs in the government. Well, that is really far from the truth. Everybody knows career people in the government work for the government, only those who are political appointees. I understand there'll be about 48 departments. So, those political positions are the one that usually they're supposed to resign based on the law. And then if a new administration come in, then they will deal with that. But for the most part, I basically want people to know they're not going to lose their jobs, although I feel the government, at this time is a little bigger in terms of employment.
Yes.
And there are some things about accountability that I want to take care of. For example, I understand in this administration's office, so that there's about 217 employees in the governor's office. So my question is, why so many? Do we have all these contracts that go through the procurement process, or are they all sole source? I have no problem with people who are qualified and who are working hard to serve the people. But when people are on the payroll and they don't do any work, oh, come on, that's a no-no. And everybody know that. But back to the basic of your questions, that would be something my administration with Pula would do, is to look for other opportunities to enlarge our private sector. That's the engine where we get money to be able to fund our government.
Thank you so much. That's good to hear. Okay, my next question for you today is, before I ask my question, this is a little background. A personal question, actually. Majority of our citizens have been known to migrate from neighboring islands, such as myself. Majority of our students are nationals or citizens of America. We've lived here, we've worked here, and have served our government with the same obligations and capacity as that of a national and American citizens. Yet, we don't have the same benefits. We don't share the same benefits. And you can't deny that over the years, American Samoa's population consists of youth immigrants more than local. And the main problem for these students, such as myself, is the financial assistance to education. There is little to no programs that effectively help. My question is, what solutions can a government ran by you do to effectively help our immigrant students?
Okay, well then, let me answer this question, which is a very important and serious question, backward. The last part of the question is immigration students. So the question I have, how is the immigration office in American Samoa government handling immigration, right? So if you also go a little bit further into the history of American Samoa, the deeds of cession that caused American Samoa to become a U.S. territory has sort of like the rule of law through the Constitution. At the same time, and when I say this is a serious question, this is the kind of question that we need to put out there to the public. What I would do, for example, the government is made out of 3 divisions, right? You have the administration, you have the legislature, and then you have the judiciary. So the question should be put out there because let's face it, your question is absolutely right. If I'm an American Samoa student, born and raised here, and I'm American Samoa, and you are a student from Samoa. So you've come here, you've had your education and all that.
Yes.
Should you have the same rights as me, who was born and raised in American Samoa, not an immigrant student? Now, that question should be put out to the public. What I would do would be a referendum, to put out there to the community, or a plebiscite, because this is something the legislature should be able to input, and because there's a rule of law, and there are laws right now, and if we were to change those laws, it has to be put out to the public. That's how I would answer. I mean, it's a serious and a very legitimate question.
Yes. Thank you for that. Okay, moving on. We're almost done. Don't worry.
No problem.
Sorry. Okay. So the youth is exposed to a different time and a different era right now, and not by choice. The world is evolving, and we all know it's upgrading, and American Samoa really needs to go according to the time. So our decision-making in politics is greatly influenced by culture and religion, and rightly so, because we're very cultural people and religious people. But with culture and religion comes a rigid mindset in finding broader solutions or inputting foreign ways to improve our government. We can't deny that our culture, ways, and beliefs aren't enough to maintain a government of this age and time. Most of these ideas and solutions are being held within and amongst the minds of our youth. The more exposure they have, the more we learn new things, and the more we're introduced to this technological era and time. And my question is, what is one promise you can make to the youth throughout your term so that they are able to speak and be heard by you, and not just a one-time promise that most candidates make, but a consistent one that will actually be executed if given the chance to govern? More of like a platform for us to raise our voice, to raise the choices that we have that dictate our lives.
Thank you, Nellie. That's also a really good question. One of the things that I remember when I was a senior in high school, there was a program that was run at the time by the youth office, and I think it was Mr. Nellie Tuigamala was running it. And I remember that they picked several students, from folks in American, high schools in American Samoa. So myself and other of my Marist brothers, Crusader boys, were able to come with this group of students from Whangaitua High School, Leone, even Mapusanga High School at the time. So we were able to get together, and for a week, we kind of followed, we had a ballot where we followed certain leaders for a week. And then afterward, we come together and then kind of share ideas and, talk about what happened. So I happened to follow Lieutenant Governor or Acting Governor Mockler at the time. And so I kind of got in trouble because I said something he said, well, sometimes the legislature members act like children, and so I got called in and got interviewed, have a close hearing as, people from Samoa were watching. So anyway, making a long story short. So that was a good program because it made us really seriously think about accountability and about government. Now, your question is, what will I do should I become governor? To promise the youth, I think you said?
Yes.
People who run for positions like this should not make promises, because too often they make promises and then they don't do it, and then it's frustrating. It's disappointing for the youth. But I can ensure that if I become governor every year, we will have a youth day where we will have discussions from the first year all the way to the fourth year in terms of what it is about technology that we can use to move forward. As you mentioned, technology.
Yes.
You also mentioned church. You mentioned culture. You mentioned all this. It covers all the aspects. The word is all the points that build our community. For example, often some people say, "Wow, like tourists go through American Samoa. And I was even when I was a young student, we were tour guides, used as tour guides when we used to have a lot of,
oh, nice.
yeah, really nice, tourist ships that would come in, and we would have that opportunity. And one of the things that we learned is that the community of American Samoa is so unique and it's so special because you have churches, right? And people would ask, how come you have so many churches in every village? So, we'd make up, our people are very religious. And my hope now that I've grown up is more spiritual than religious.
Yes.
You got a lot of people going to church, but sometimes wonder, if they follow the right way. For example, accountability. Churches do a great job for accountability. They have that role. And the youth should discuss that.
Yes.
And the youth should also discuss how much of the culture is benefiting us, or how much is it, to me personally, Samoan culture is a very beautiful thing.
Yes.
At the same time, it can be corrupted when not used wisely. Like anything in life, right? If you're accountable, if you're transparent, if you're honest, for me, at the end of the day, I answer to two bosses.
Yes.
One is God. Second is the people of American Samoa. That's all I have to say about that.
Nice. So you mentioned that we, if given the chance to govern, you will make sure or ensure that every year we will have a youth day. So now, ladies and gentlemen, you have him. We're recording him right now, and we have him on video. So if Pula does get the chance to govern our beautiful American Samoa youth, you've heard it from him. We're going to have a youth day, so
Yes.
Thank you for that.
And they will be fantastic.
Yes, looking forward to it. Okay, so my second question, I'm going to talk about, it's actually some of the topics that I consider taboo in our culture. These are some of the too serious topics that we kind of brush under the rug most of the time because it's something that our elders assume us to, we should already know about it.
All right, Nellie, get me in trouble. Get me in trouble. Okay.
No, I'm just going to talk about drugs for a moment here.
Okay.
I'm just going to talk
Sure,
about
sure,
drugs.
sure.
So we all know the illicit abuse of drugs, and the circulation of drugs on island has become a major problem. And for years now, we have been trying to solve this problem, but lately, given the criminal rates and especially the drug problem is still prevalent here in American Samoa, we know that our methods are not working. And to be realistic, it's still happening. And I know some people who are affiliated with drugs still, okay? So I know some of the youth that are still doing it. And I wanted to say that, most of the availability of these drugs is great because consumers, they demand it. And because you get a lot of money when you sell drugs here on island. And common drugs in island are mainly cocaine and marijuana, if you didn't know that, sir, or if you did. Cocaine and marijuana they're prevalent here in American Samoa. Marijuana is more expensive than cocaine, in most communities. And the youth often, they like to go for affordability rather than availability. So it doesn't matter how much cocaine we have, but if we have something that's less expensive like marijuana, we would buy it, right?
Okay.
The consumers would most likely take it. So I believe that you can't stop the circulation of drugs, but you can allow it. I don't know if this is something you've thought of before or something that you're still trying to think about, but because it's not allowed, people resort to other ways of attaining drugs, increasing criminal rates and corrupting families, villages, communities. It's not the question of drugs in general. It's more of a question of which drug. Like, we've tried a lot of possible solutions to ban it, to try to alleviate drugs within schools, within villages, but it hasn't been working. So my question is, would you allow the legalization of marijuana for the betterment of us? Less exposure to more harder drugs. What are your thoughts?
Thank you, Nellie. That's a very important issue. And the way you phrase this question kind of covers all parts of a community. You talk about individuals or our youth who are using it.
Yes.
You also mentioned some of our older people who may be pushing,
Yes.
drugs, or people in the government, right? And or villages and things like this. So my thought about this, I don't understand. Well, maybe I should ask this question. What is our government doing? You say that some of this stuff haven't worked. I know for a fact that there are a lot of federal funding that come to eliminate drugs. As a matter of fact, at the White House, they usually have somebody called a drug czar.
Oh.
That person is responsible for all the states and the territories, to sort of spearhead.
Yes.
Drugs is a big issue all over. But for a community as beautiful as ours, and I say this because it's a beautiful set of islands. People always think of American Samoa or even Samoa, and these are paradise places. They think of the sun, the sunshine, the beach, right?
Yes.
And then when it comes to our people are so kind and friendly. The attitudes of our people are naturally very friendly, right? And very respectful and all
Yes.
that. So I think it'll have to be a community resolution in terms of resolving this problem.
Yes.
There are families now that are struggling with their children or young adults that are affected by the drug. So obviously, the first, to me as a government, what is the law enforcement doing, right? So what are the police or other subdivisions of law enforcement that deal with drugs? And the second question I would definitely look into is the customs, the bringing in
Yes.
of these drugs, checking, to protecting our environment and our place. The second thing is, what programs do the government have that are now available? If it's insufficient, then that's something we need to do. Thirdly, I would say involving now not only just the families and the struggling children or young adults, what can our community, our culture, as you mentioned, it affects our culture. I know your question goes all the way back, will I be for allowing marijuana to be legal? But I'm answering you the question, before we get too much into that question, I'd like to know now what's being done, and if it's not sufficient, how can we tackle it in a more comprehensive way? That the villages are involved, the culture, through the Pula and the Samoan Affairs Office, the churches, through all the Whaiwhiaus and all the people. I think because we're such a small community,
Yes.
that I think we can resolve it as a community. If our older or elderly people, or maybe not even elderly, but people that are making decisions are not taking this issue seriously because it affects our children, then we really have to step up. And
Yes.
I, as a candidate, me and Pulu, we, like I said, we don't make promises. We will definitely look into it real hard.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. That's how I would answer that right now.
Okay, thank you. And my last and final question today for you, Yatla Sunga Pula.
Yeah.
What does the phrase walk the talk mean to you personally? Most of the times we hear these candidates saying, oh, we are going to walk the talk. And most of the time they say that they don't necessarily do what they speak of. So what does it mean to you personally, and how will you be able to integrate this into your journey as running for office?
Thank you. That's the easiest question I've ever heard from you today. So my easy answer is doing what you say. In other words, if I'm going to walk the talk, I'm going to say something and that is my bond.
Yes.
Right? Integrity. That's what that is. In the olden days, we didn't have to sign any contracts. Whatever the chief say, in the council, that's a word, that's a bond. And plus, like I said before, I only answer to two entities. One is God, the second, the people of American Samoa. I have to be accountable to my Father in heaven, and I have to be accountable to the people if I'm a governor. So that's my easy answer.
Thank you so much, Pula. Thank you for this opportunity. Yeah, manuia faiva.
Whaftai, whamaro, mānei a whai au siri.
Ia, ole, amanole, tu nā tu lau, sunga Pula, ai tere tanga te psisili mea te. Te le mana au I se sui tau vai wha mea te, au pula mau te le pālota I le si tangata. Au te mana au, pe ai sa au la au osi la pālota mo ia. Ia, ona e whapte atu le, au fia koe u whafunga mai ni vai ngal tāpu kala.
Whaftai lava, ole alamoni lava e tauna pālotai mo pula ma pulu. I le suinga o le tato malo ina ia whaalilei a tili. O le tūlanga o iei nei, o le lava e alu tato wa. Ai peo a mata na tumutumu inai. Pisi sami fo ieu, tau ngoto lai titi. Mata ngō fie la a pālota mo pula ma pulu. Ia o ma ua o le atam whai e tāle liu, ma au maia tūlanga manuia, o me umalawa I nei o na po. E ui ai le telephone technology me o ma tātou Samoa, I nei, American Samoa, ma whape voi Samoa, e mua le tua. A tātou whamaoni le tua, tātou whewhewe e whaia mea le te taun whai e sila fia me le tua, o le lei fo le tātou wa. O le whamoe mona, pālota mo pulu, o ni taitai e whamaoni, ma whaia le manui e tātou whanau mo lumanai.
O le whamoe moe I se isi pokalama I lumana I atu, po le vai esa pohu, po le vai esa nei, whafunga mai pēra malo le antinu.
Ioe, o la whaipea lava I vai asu taitasi I le teimi nei, o le lua, I le afo le lua, I aso ngafua a masani, I a o sui nei le aso lua, langa e sa whalewla vea foi nisio tātou tangata. Le tonu lava, o la tom whai atu lava I vai asu taitasi, I a nei proklama o le Hope Samoa Talks.
Ia, pēra whafunga mai malo le antinu, ia le malu I wapea foi I Pula Nikolao o le tātou proklama, campaign, le campaign whanga solo, ia a pula mapulu, ia a wana wha moe te whakowana malu tena kowana, le nei tau sanga American Samoa. Pasoi fuia.